Hello, mgtow. Many thanks for coming to visit. I see that you're a good person. You are not to blame for this. You were brought up in that manner. You were brought up in that manner, and in all honesty, that is the most effective way to be. It's the intelligent thing to do. It's the most effective strategy for advancing in life and constructing a fulfilling life for oneself. There is absolutely no way that the bright and intelligent man who lives in a Western civilization is not going to turn out to be a decent human being for the most part. Therefore, it is not meant as an insult. To tell you the truth, this is a really good thing, which is a really good thing. Having said that, with regard to dating, interacting with women, and interacting with certain types of people throughout the world, it is abundantly clear that this is a double-edged sword. It's messed up that nice guys, decent guys are getting screwed over when they should be the ones who are moving forward in life and building the future, but they're not. There are some dangers associated with it, and that's what I want to talk about here today. They are in the process of being destroyed. Because it occurred to me, I feel compelled to offer some perspective and background information regarding that circumstance. I have the opportunity to reflect on it in the future and say things like, oh, that's how I got hosed on that one, even though it was the right way to go. If you're not going to be a nice guy, there's no way you're going to make it into adulthood. That's all there is to it. There is no way that you can skip out on school. You are going to be punished for what you've done. You're going to get drugged. You will not receive the support of the people in your immediate environment. Consequently, doing so is the prudent course of action. Perhaps there is some mgtow involved. You know, some more experienced older guys who have been through the system, and you know, they have a really tough attitude. I believe that the majority of you would have to agree with me if you were to reflect on the situation and be completely sincere with yourself. I see where you're coming from, and I agree with you. You attempted to carry it out in a courteous, beneficial, and appropriate manner. However, this was the point at which you were screwed over. This doesn't have to play out the way it is. I have delved into some of the more profound philosophical questions regarding why a person would engage in the actions that they are engaging in. Are the only reasons they're acting on it that their gut instincts and the emotions they're feeling are telling them to? Or are they acting in this manner because, as you may be aware, they have considered the circumstances? They are aware of all aspects, including the costs, the benefits, the potential sacrifices, and the potential gains. They have made the decision to pursue that course of action because there is a difference between themselves and the individual who is just going on their feelings. They are going to be very angry about it. If they continue down this path of, having serious relationships with women and things of that nature, which I do not recommend, they are going to run into all kinds of tragedies and things that they don't understand that are coming out of nowhere. The only person who can prevent this from happening is the person who has already decided and understood where they are going. They are able to have an overall perspective, a strategic view, and recognize the situation so that it does not come as a surprise to them. Therefore, that is the service that I intend to render here. Therefore, there is no way for the young man to avoid being a nice guy who is trying to get along in the system by cooperating with the system and not being a complete and utter shithead in being that guy. He is taught to offer himself as a sacrifice to those who are less able, those who are weaker, women, and those who are in need. In many situations, the wicked, the exploitative, the dishonest, the lazy, the weak, the manipulative, the hateful, and the destructive, as well as the young man who gives himself over to what society and those around him want him to become, he becomes a servant, and nobody respects that. Now, the message is that if you do not become this kind of sacrificing servant, you do not get ahead in the world, you are not being a nice guy, and you do not get to advance in your career. In many situations, the young man is going to be just going along with what the woman is saying, such as when the woman says, "Well, you're a feminist. Aren't you?" And it seems like the guy is thinking to himself. No, this is not the case at all. They are simply acting the part of the victim. But as he looks at the girl, he says, "Well, yeah, of course I'm a feminist." They continue to whine and complain while he listens. To get along with women, you need to have a complete duplicity of mind, meaning that you need to think one thing and say another. You also need to be able to say something that you know to be completely untrue while acting as though it is completely true and you believe it and you do in that moment for that bit of conversation. See, this is what it takes to get along with women. It requires complete duplicity of mind, double think and double speak. The issue is that once you do that, and I know that, exactly that's what the nice guy, the young man of Western civilization does. I know this because I've seen it happen. That is the action that he needs to take. The problem is that if you do that for a long enough period of time, you forget, and it doesn't even matter, because if you simply go along with something that you don't agree with for 20 years, what does it matter that you never really agreed with it? You never held onto your character. You are aware that there is a single drawback to being the nice guy, but this double-edged sword has many facets. You want to get along with people, and you want to be agreeable with them, but if you succeed in doing either of those things, you will lose yourself and your independence, even if you are only superficially agreeing. The young man needs to be true to himself before he's even found himself, and while he's been raised and conditioned to be essentially a servant, his biology is driving him to want to please those around him, to want to be a blue pill sacrificing, simping man because that's what will make those people happy, and if he does it, he gets rewarded, he gets jobs, and he gets female approval. This is one of the dangers that you need to, however, I believe that as one gets older, one develops the ability to recognize. The enjoyment of golfing, which is not something that I have ever done, it's just that as you get older, you realize that yes, that does turn into exercise, doesn't it? It's sad to say that simply walking around makes me look better than I thought I would. Now, what do I know anyway? Now the more the man is attempting to please a woman by falsely agreeing with her, by this act of duplicity, the mornings pretend, he's pretending to be a nice guy even if he's gaining acceptance from the woman or from the group, they're losing respect for him on some level, and he's losing respect for himself on some level, so this is what I'm warning you. Look, I'm trying to make peace with you by giving up everything I care about for the sake of our relationship. Won't you accept me now? The response is a negative one, no. It's disgusting, that's how I see it, and I believe that's how other women see it as well. Now I like you even less, because it's disgusting. My advice is to be able to look at a woman and say, no, I don't really trust relationships with women in this day and age when women can replace a man so easily, when they hold them in such a light regard, when the media and social media suggest that men are such garbage in Western civilization and that women are such victims. So, this is why my advice is to be able to look at a woman and say, no, I don't really trust relationships with women in this day, and when the reality is that women have never before enjoyed such favorable conditions. There is no difference in pay between men and women between the ages of 22 and 29. They get paid more, and it's like, gee, I wonder why. I wonder why we have so many service jobs and so few manufacturing and production jobs in our society. I wonder why there are so many elderly, out-of-shape dating women and weak men filling all of your government jobs and corporate jobs, and I wonder why all of your strong, fit, and healthy men are driven out of the workforce. There are no jobs available for them. I wonder why. Therefore, the young man has no choice but to conduct himself in such a manner, otherwise, he will be expelled, and people won't like him regardless. I'm sorry to put it that way, but you know what I mean. How far into the trap of being a nice guy and pleasing others does a young man need to go before it starts to destroy him, or he realizes there's no coming back, or he sacrificed so much to win the graces of a woman or a group or a company that they now look upon him as nothing and he looks upon himself as nothing? I apologize for putting it that way, but you know what I mean. Consequently, this is one facet of the double-edged sword that I'm referring to. I guess what I'm talking about is the peril of being a nice guy too much and losing yourself in the process of trying to please others, while at the same time acknowledging that yes, you have to continue down that road regardless of the circumstances. You are a craftsman, and if you want to be paid well, you had better do a good job, and we are going to check your work. Do you understand what I mean? It had better be good, because if it isn't, you won't get paid for your work. You can't just ignore the idea that you should try to make other people happy, because you can't. But are you able to do it without becoming someone else? It is not entirely straightforward. These videos do not contain the answers, and I do not have them. These are short videos uploaded every day to the mgtow YouTube channel for the purpose of providing men with a positive perspective on what I believe to be a negative situation in the world today regarding men. These are the good guys, the nice guys, the guys who are trying to do what's right in the world, and they are the ones who are getting abused by the system that placates and caters to women. This system pretends that a weak man who isn't even trying to take care of himself needs to be taken care of and looked after, and considered that a foolish child who hasn't experienced anything in life and who has nothing but their ideals is now going to come out into the world in there during his 20s and 30s. The man realizes that things just don't work out that way. The woman is incapable of education. She just can't stop having these outbursts of emotion, and a good number of the men can't either.